pay for the power to charge it. And then the second you fire up an app icon, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, what have you, that supercomputer basically works only on behalf of that entity and not really on behalf of you. Like you had reduced now to using your thumbs and the wetware between your ears. And you're holding a supercomputer in your hand, a supercomputer that can talk to any other supercomputer in the world. This is a fundamentally weird circumstance that I think we need to connect through regulatory ways. And that has made these monopolies quite as powerful as they are, is because they operate millions of servers and we literally operate our thumbs. I mean, it's just such an asymmetry. And so I think that as long as we don't fix this asymmetry, we're going to keep creating opportunities for someone to create very, very large monopoly-like businesses, and somebody's going to go finance those businesses. So I think, to me, it has more to do with, we have to figure out as societies kind of how do we want to use these digital technology capabilities, and what kind of regulation do we need so that those digital technology capabilities get used in a way that creates more broadly distributed power as opposed to highly concentrated power. That's why I'm in favor of net neutrality. It's a monopoly relationship with my ISP, so I need a regulator to intervene so that in this monopoly relationship, I'm not being, basically taken advantage of by my ISP. And similarly, I think if we change regulations so that, one example that I've given is any service that has more than 1 million users should be forced to have APIs. Now, we can talk in a second. People are like, weren't APIs the thing that gave Cambridge Analytica access? We'll get back to that in a second. But the point is...
Something NYT story.
Sorry?
That bloody NYT story. They gave full access to messages. It's like, yeah, how do you think in-app messaging works? I've had a fight with almost every tech firm. Going, yeah, that's how apps work.
Right.
Sorry.
But the interesting thing is they gave that access to other big near monopoly players. They didn't give it to us, Yeah. So this ties into the ad model. Like the second, if I make an API mandatory, now I can run my supercomputer for myself, and I can tell my supercomputer to look up everything that James has posted on Facebook, not go through the algorithmic feed, right? I can decide to strip out every ad. So we would automatically force a switch. People be like, well, with API access, a lot of people are going to strip ads, so maybe I need to offer like a ad-free $5 a month subscription instead, right? So all I'm saying is I think we have created a lot of, we've not understood the fundamental nature of digital technology. We're applying industrial age regulation to it, and we're wondering why we keep running into really weird effects. The industrial age was defined by very significant marginal cost. The digital age is defined by zero marginal cost. And, you study economics, I study economics. Zero marginal cost is the divide by zero error of economics.
Yeah.
None of micro works. Like all of micro, all of competition, it's all based on the idea that there's some marginal cost in these markets. And so we need totally different regulatory tools that are native to the native characteristics of this new technology.
So like 1 million plus users, you have an API. That's a good example. What else does internet era regulation look like if you get to start from zero?
To me, this is the core one because it sort of defines who controls computation. I don't actually think between that and net neutrality. And ideally, I'd also like to not have, geographical borders reimposed on the internet. But those three things, if we got those three things, I think we'd be actually in pretty good shape.
Protected crypto?
So I am all in favor of people using cryptography. I have no issue with people wanting to use cryptography. I have a very outlier view on privacy, which is I do believe that societies have a legitimate interest in network analysis. I gave a talk at the Blockstack Berlin conference that explains why I believe that.
I bet that was popular.
Oh, it was very funny because because Peter Falkenberg from Coin Center had just interviewed Edward Snowden for an entire hour. And during the entire hour, Edward Snowden was like, how privacy, 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 privacy. And then I came up and I said, okay, I'm going to try and use the next 20 minutes to convince you that privacy is actually a potential red herring. People were like, oh, really? I think I actually brought some people along. But
so you know I worked on those, right?
No.
I was one of the reporters from day one with Glenn.
So I'll give you my view. I actually think that what Snowden did by revealing these programs, I'm totally fine with. I think that one of the biggest mistakes government made post 9/11 was to think that they had to secretly spy on citizens, as opposed to say, look, we think we can catch that kind of stuff through network analysis, and so we'd like to do some level of network analysis. I also think we would have had to set up a new agency, because I think a lot of the existing agencies had sort of trust problems.
Yep.
I think if after 9/11 we had said, look, it's silly that Facebook knows a lot more than the state. That's kind of, there's something like broken with that idea. We're going to set something up where we will know some things, and we're going to figure out how to create due process around that. When can you get data from that? Like how many layers of judicial system do you need to get there? We could have set something up that people would have been like, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
I'll tell you the best thing about doing it more in the open, that it got better at it, because you know what? The NSA suck.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They spend tens of billions on it, and Alexander could only name one plot foil, the $7,000 Al-Shabaab transaction.
Right. Right.
Like if you're spending 10 billion,
you should have more to show.
You suck at network analysis.
Yeah.
They got really good at finding pizza parlors.
Right. Right. But my view is I'm not anti-encryption. Look, everything I do with my bank has to be encrypted, because otherwise, other people would be taking money out of my account. I am, however, I think, and I say this in this talk, there's a fundamental asymmetry built into the universe, and that is entropy. And because of entropy, it's always a lot harder to create and always a lot easier to destroy. And so as we're making technological progress, as we put more power in the hands of that individual, the power of that individual to destroy actually grows faster than it grows to create. And that means, if you want to take this argument into the extreme, somebody's going to create a black hole in their basement, right? So with sufficiently advanced technology, that'll be possible.
And someone would do it.
And somebody would do it, yeah. Some idiot would do it, right?
I mean, that comes back to your protocols issue. A lot of this stuff, when you talk to people, go, we didn't know what we were doing.
Sure.
We weren't building something that we thought 3.5 billion people would be on.
Right.
We knew it would grow. We thought it might have 300 computers on it.
But see,
we all knew each other.
I think
the DNS is a trust system. BGP
right.
is a trust system.
But I think that fundamentally, though, the nature of human invention, and I think it's important. All these people who say you should think through every possible consequence, that's complete hogwash.
You'd never build anything.
You'd never build anything. Also, you can't think through the consequences. These systems are far too complex. You have to live with the consequences, and they have to go, well, that didn't work, and we kind of know why, so let's fix it,
We do have a lot of architecture based on trust. I know this ends up coming back to blockchain, and let's one idea that I liked that I heard, it's easy to go, let's break up Facebook, break up Google, whatever, fine, who cares, honestly. An interesting one someone kind of talked me through was, look, Google's got 20 years of search history, and now they've got, 1 billion, 2, 3, 4, 5 billion a day. And they know what you click after, they know what you want. It's incredibly rich and incredibly good for what it does.
Sure.
It's why Google's good. If you want to be as good as Google, barring a massive new technology in how you search, which is possible, how do you ever build up that archive? They've got this, this data trove, as you say, that store of value, that's basically impossible to replicate. And they likened it to drug patents. Said, look, you create a new drug and that's with the potential to save 1 million lives a year. You get to rake it in for 30 years, and then you've got to hand it over. They were kind of saying, should there be something like the equivalent of patents on these kind of databases that drive services, that drive something for a user?
I don't know. Since I'm not a big fan of patents to begin with, so let me quickly talk about that for 1 second, and then I come back to the question, which is, I just think there are more interesting models of innovation. In the UK, for instance, had the famous Longitude Prize. I'm a huge believer that we would have much more pharma innovation if we went the prize route than if we. Okay, so I do think that if we get this kind of, hey, I actually have more control over my computation, I think it would be actually quite